Hi friends, it's Terri Gaines, an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up. I appreciate everyone who selects me as a demonstrator when placing your Stampin' Up order. As a thank you gift, I have a fun fold packet with a different fun fold each month. It includes a main card and a miniature card that goes on the instruction postcard. I email you a PDF, a video link to put the card together, and all the details so you can recreate this card using different product. I have additional gifts for qualifying orders. You can always see the details for my thank you gifts on the bottom of every blog post that is at createwithterrigaines.com. Thank you. In the following video, we'll show you the assembly details for my March 2024 Funfold project. Thank you so much for placing a Stampin' Up order and selecting me as your demonstrator. I appreciate it very much. In this video tutorial, I'm going to share all the details for my March 2024 Funfold project, a thank you gift for placing the order. I have mailed you a packet that has all the materials cut and ready to stamp and assemble for a main card, along with a miniature card for the instruction postcard. You use your own stamps, ink, adhesive, and a few additional tools. The goal for this video is to share how I prepared the packet, how to create the two cards, along with giving you all the details so you can recreate this fun fold using other products. At the end of the tutorial, I have some additional samples to share using other product. I mailed a PDF with all the code numbers of the materials and the tools I used to create the packet. The beauty of this video is you can pause, you can replay, or you can rewatch as many times as you want. Let's start out by sorting the packet. In your packet, you have an instruction postcard. We're going to set that aside. That's going to be referenced as we go through the assembly process. You have a small card base out of the Sweet Sorbet cardstock. That is for the miniature card. The window cut out of the card is from the Nested Essential dies. I use the second to the smallest one for the window, and then for the panels I use the smallest one. For this fun fold card, you can create the windows out of multiple different types of dies. So in your packet, you're going to find another panel with the petal pink. You're going to find 5 of these white, basic white panels, all for the miniature card. You also will have in there some cute bees. These bees are from the designer series paper called Be Mine. It's a 12 by 12 in size. You get 2 each of these fun prints that are double-sided. You have the bee and floral design on one side and then a fun background on the other side. You've got 3 bees from this print and 1 from this print for the miniature card. We're going to set those aside. You also have another piece of that same designer series paper from that same packet. That's all for the miniature card. So we're going to set that aside. Then you should have some rhinestones in your packet also. These are the small size from the Rhinestone Basic Jewels. There's 3 different sizes. You have a larger, medium, and a lot of small ones. Those are going to be to embellish the butterfly on the main card. You also have some paper butterflies. These are in the January through April mini catalog. You receive 40 in a package, 8 sheets. Each sheet has 5 different designs. You have 3 in your project or in your packet. We're going to use these 3. I'm using the other 2 for other projects, so you're going to find that. That's going to embellish our card. You also are going to find lots of panels. We're going to talk about all the different size panels and the various sizes in a moment. You're going to find Lost Lagoon, Pretty Peacock, Basic White, Designer Series paper, and then a texturized panel. These panels are all cut from the Countryside Corner dies. I use the second to the largest for the largest one, and then the next 2 sizes. As I mentioned, we're going to talk about the panels and the different sizes in a moment. The designer series paper in this packet is from the Perennial Lavender packet. It is beautiful designer series paper. You get 6 double-sided prints. You've got that beautiful floral and butterfly design on one side and then some really great backgrounds on the other side. So we have some panels cut out with that designer series paper along with this strip. You also are going to find, let's step back. Let's grab these 2 basic white. We want to put those aside. To sort those and make sure you have those separated. you're going to find two ovals. One is scalped and one is not scalped. These are from the double oval punch. We have a pretty peacock one in the basic white. We're going to set the basic one aside. And then we have our card base with the window already cut out. So I'm going to talk about a few of these different things before we get started. There is some prep work that you need to do. And I'm going to share the card with you. You need to determine what kind of card you want to use this for, what occasion. I have stamped my sentiments with the Comforting Thought stamp set. This is a new online exclusives, and I use all three sentiments from this stamp set. And I have stamped the oval with Pretty Peacock. Well, actually all three of these with Pretty Peacock ink color. What you want to do is stamp these three. And one is going to be for the ovals for the outside of the card. And then I have this for a sentiment, or this panel is a sentiment, and then you have that one. So you can stamp these before we start our assembly. You also are going to want to take a paper snips or a scissors and cut these 4 B's out. They are going to be layered onto the basic white. So when I cut out these, I leave a little bit of white space. Cutting out is not my cup of tea. And so when I cut them out, I leave a little bit of white space because it will camouflage all my imperfections because we're putting that onto white. So no one's going to see if I didn't cut that out nice and neatly. So before we start our assembly, what you want to do is stamp these 3, cut these 4 out, and then the tools you're going to need is adhesive. You're going to need is some double-sided adhesive, some mini glue dots. Dimensionals are going to be optional. I have a bone folder, my take your pick tool, and then a silicone craft mat set aside. So once you have those pieces stamped, these cut out, and your supplies available, you can we'll start the assembly. So the beauty of the video is you can hit the pause button, gather your supplies, stamp your images, and then hit the play button when you're ready to go. All right, we are going to start out by, we'll just kind of go along with the instructions here, and I'll explain all of the different items that we have. We have our card base. It's 8.5 by 5.5. It's scored at 4 1/4, and we have a window cut out. So this is our card base. Then we have our designer series paper, as I mentioned. This is 2 3/8 in height. That means you can get 5 of them per sheet, per 12 by 12 sheet, and it is scored at 4 and at 8 inches for you already. We're going to set that aside. Then we're going to talk about these panels. We have one that is the same size as the window. This is panel 1. Then we have 5 of the Pretty Peacock panels that are all the same size. These are panel 2. So panel 2 is quantity 5, smaller than panel 1. Then we have 5 of panel number 3. 2 of them are the sentiments. 2 of them are designer series paper. And 1 of them is the Lost Lagoon, and I texturized this with the Timber 3D folder to add a subtle texture to that. So those are panel number 3. Do note in your instructions that panel number 3 is smaller than panel number 2, and it is optional. You don't need to use it. You can use it differently. When we do the miniature card, you're going to understand when I mean optional, because we only have panel 1 and panel 2. And in this one, we have panel 1, 2, and 3. So for the instructions, what it tells us to do is we're going to take our card base and fold it on our score line. So you're going to fold it on the score line that's already on the card and crease that with your bone folder. I do want to let you know you have an option right now to texturize this before we move forward. I texturized this sample. You can see that this is texturized. What I did was I folded it like this. I put this in my Timber 3D folder and ran it through my cut and emboss machine, and it texturized the front to give it a texture. I'm not going to do it on this one, but you have that option to do that. Do note that it just adds that nice texture, but it also breaks down the fibers a little bit, that it's a little bit less sturdy, but it still works out. So if you want to texturize it, you can hit the pause button, texturize it, and then hit start button when you're ready to go. So now that we are ready to go, we have this folded. And then what it tells us to do is we're going to take panel 1 and we're going to put it in this window. So how I suggest to do that is we're going to put our adhesive on the back of panel 1. You're going to hold the card down at the fold to hold it flat to the table. Hold this up on an angle so your adhesive doesn't touch, and line up these corners, and then let it fall into place by adhering to the card base. We want that panel 1 to fit in right perfectly in that window. So that's the first step we want to do. The next step is we're going to take our designer series paper. Now what it tells us in the instructions, with the inside print up, this is what I want to have on the inside. I'm going to bring this card back to show you. So on the inside is going to be this print. If you'd prefer, you could have this print on the inside and the other print on the outside. I'm going to continue to have mine with a print like this. So you determine which side you want your print, what side you want on the inside. And then what we're going to do is feel the score lines. There's a score line at 4 inches and one at 8. We're going to fold the right one in on that score line and fold the left one in on that score line. And then just use your fingers. We don't want to take the bone folder and crease that. We don't want to break those fibers. It is thinner than cardstock, so we want to make sure we don't break any fibers on that. So fold the right one in and the left one on top of that. Then we're going to put adhesive on the back and adhere it to the inside of this card. So the back would be the center of that middle panel, and we're going to keep it folded like this. And now this has got a direction, so I have it in the right direction. This is going to go right in the center of this card base. It's going to be 1/8 of an inch from here, 1/8 of an inch from here, and equals on both sides. So I'm going to hold it up. I'm going to have about 1/8 of an inch from the score line. I'm looking for equal spacing here and here, and then I'm going to let that fall into place and adhere that onto my card base. Then we're going to open this up. Now we're going to take this panel number 2, put adhesive on the back of that, and adhere this one right to here. Now all 5 of these are the very same color. They are with a pretty peacock. Now I would suggest when you recreate this card, keep them all the same color, because that's going to work out best for alignment. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So what I did was I looked for equal spacing and adhered that piece down. Now the inside of the card is going to be this sentiment. This is the one I want on the inside. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere that next. So I'm going to put my adhesive on the back and place this. Now this is panel 3, which is optional, but because of the color choices, we want the basic white for that. Now what we're going to do is take this panel and fold it down, and we're going to take another panel 2 and adhere it just to the designer series paper and line it up. This is why I have it the same color, because if I'm off a hair, it's camouflaged. You can't see the differences. If this was a different color underneath and I was off a hair, you could see that color peek out. So now, because I only want it on the designer series paper, I don't want to get any adhesive here, I'm going to use this panel 2 that's already adhered as my guide. So I'm making sure my adhesive stays within that area, and then I'll be safe for having no exposed adhesive where I don't want it to be. I'm going to line up this panel right over that panel. So now I can open this up. I'm going to take another panel 2 and put that one to line that up. So what we're doing is we're sandwiching that designer series paper between these 2 panels. Now you can line it up and use the guide for or lay on top to use it as a guide. I like to pick it up and use my fingers to help me get it into place and then burnish that. So when I have this opened, I'm going to put this on the inside and this one's going to be here. So I think I'm good with that. Let me I'll open this up so you can see how this is. So we've got this attached. Now we're going to put one of the designer series papers here. Now if you choose, you can put it on this way. I'm going to keep it with this designer series paper. So I'm going to put my adhesive on the back and look for equal spacing on all sides to adhere that. Okay. Now we'll put the butterfly on later, so I'm going to close this. When you close this, we have another sentiment here. So I'm going to take that one and adhere this. So you have an option for 3 sentiments on this card. So we are going to look for equal spacing and put that down. Now we're going to fold this next panel in. We're going to take another one of the panel 2s and we're going to adhere this just to the designer series paper. So going to again use the already adhered panels for the guide. Going to stay within this area for my adhesive. And then I can take this and line this one up over that previous one. And if I'm off a little bit, it's all camouflaged. So this is where this one's going to go. So I'm going to put my adhesive on the back of this and look for equal spacing. I'm going to open this up. Oops, I kind of jumped the gun. That's okay. It doesn't matter the orientation or the steps that you use on putting this on. But now I'm going to put this one on the back. So what I can do is put adhesive on the entire piece here. There we go. So now when you open this up, if you feel that you did something wrong, you did not. It does not open up and lay right perfectly centered in that cutout. That's because we have this 1/8 inch spacing right here. So don't feel you did anything wrong. That totally is how it's supposed to be. So now we're going to take this piece, I'm going to adhere that to here. And then this designer series paper goes in and it matches on that side. So then you put your adhesive on the back of your designer series paper, look for equal spacing, and there we have the construction part of the fun fold. Now we'll do our embellishments. I do want to mention some tips on embellishing. So we are going to use this sentiment and this oval. So I'm going to adhere my oval basic, or the white oval, to the scalped pretty peacock oval. Now when we embellish this card, we want to make sure that we close this and everything we embellish the card with stays inside the window. Because if we were to put this over the window, we've locked the card, it won't open. We want to make sure we adhere it within the window. Also, you want to make sure that it stays within this parameter of the designer series paper and the die cut. Otherwise, it will be visible when you open up the card. And what I mean by that, I'm going to show you what happened here. My butterfly wings are visible when you open up the card. If that matters to you, then you're going to want to place accordingly. Stay within that border. I am going to put this down with adhesive. If you choose, you can use dimensionals, but I'm going to use adhesive on mine. So I'm going to also make sure it stays within this border. I'm going to close this to make sure it stays inside the window and within that border. I'm actually going to move this one to be a little bit lower than where I did for my first one. And let me show you what I mean by that. We always have learning lessons from the first cards we make. You can see that I have less space here. So I pretty much just have that center scalp and then the next 2 on the designer series paper. Then I have it down in the corners. I kind of moved it to the left and down a little bit more than my first one. What that's going to allow me to do is move that butterfly down a little bit. Now with these butterflies, they are on here, they're perforated, so you're going to find a couple points that you need to just break off, and they break off by just pulling them, or you can use a paper snips. I'm going to choose just to put adhesive right on that portion of the butterfly. I'm going to take my mini glue dots, and let me tear some of this paper away. I'm going to take my mini glue dot, pick it up with my take your pick tool, and kind of shape it smaller and place it right on that portion. I'm going to use 2 of them, and you could cut these if you wanted, or just form them into the shape you want and get them to work in that fashion. And that's what I'm doing here. So I have 2 mini glue dots there. I'm going to close this card, and then I'm going to attempt to keep the wings and the butterfly within that border. If I'm off a little bit, that's totally okay. So I've placed this a little bit differently. It's still within the window. The card will open, and then we have some rhinestones. I gave you 5 rhinestones. You can put them all on your card, your butterfly on the front of the card, or you can just use some of them and save the other ones for another project. I personally would not put any embellishments on the inside of the card or dimensionals on the inside of the card. It's just going to add too much bulk. When you look at this card already, we have quite a bit of bulkness. We have all those layers of those panels, and you won't want to add more to your card. So now we have that butterfly. We're going to open this up and put our other 2 butterflies here. So what I'm going to do is, where did I put them? Here they are. I'm going to put one, excuse me, going that direction, and one going this direction. So I'm going to do the very same thing. I'm going to just use the mini glue dots and just attach right on the bottom portion of the butterfly. These are very strong. You are not going to have to worry about these falling off. I'm just going to do 1 for the small one, and then I'm going to put 2 on this one. And these butterflies are white when you purchase them. You can add color by using your, you can use the sponge daubers, you can use the blending brushes, and add some color to them if you choose. I'm going to keep them white just to have that white accent that works well with this card. And then the other thing, as I want to make sure we mention, that I mention, that when you add these elements, stay within your cutout and your designer series paper. Otherwise, when you close the card, you're going to see it peek out. So this is our triple panel peekaboo card. How fun. As I mentioned, I have some other samples made with different product. I'll show you those in a moment. But first, we want to assemble this card. So for this card, we have our card base is with the Sweet Sorbet. You're going to see a score line there. We're going to fold that. Take your bone folder and crease that score line. Then you're going to take this panel, put adhesive on the back, and put that through the window to get your alignment. So we're going to hold this, going to put this down, hold it down here on this, that way you get that nice and flush. Put this in the window, get that to fit right where it should. Open this up. So that's the first step. Then you're going to take the designer series paper, and now you have a tough decision. Do you want this to be on the inside when it opens up, or do you want the stripes? I have one of each to share how it's going to turn out, so you can decide. So this one has the flowers on the outside, and then it has the stripes on the inside. This one has the stripes on the outside, and it has the flowers on the inside. Aren't those bees cute? I love this designer series paper. I'm going to continue to do it this way. So I'm going to choose to have the flowers on the inside. So with the inside print facing up, we're going to find that score line. I have that pre-scored for you. You're going to fold that print down, so fold the one on the right down and then the left over it. You're going to put adhesive on the back of this. So I'm going to put a couple strips of adhesive on this. Now, if you get it rotated around or move it around, make sure your orientation is still right. Adhesive is in the back of the center panel. We're going to look for equal spacing on the top and bottom, and you're going to have about 1/8 of an inch space to that edge and place that down. So that's the first step. Now we're going to open this up. We have 5 of the panel 2s, which are smaller than the panel 1, and we do not have panel 3. This is where I was referencing that you do not have to have a panel 3. So what we're going to do is put adhesive on the back of one of these, and then we're going to put that right on here to be the center. Then we're going to fold the right one down. We're going to use that panel 2 as our guide. Put our adhesive just on the designer series paper, and then line this one up to place that one down. Open this up, take another panel, put adhesive on the back, and then you can place it on the table to line it up. I like to use my fingers, so you just do the way that works best for you. And we're going to line that up. All of these are the same color, so if there's any misalignment, it's all camouflage. It's a perfect way to do that. So now that you have front and back on that one, you're going to fold this one down. You're going to fold that panel down. Use the panel 2 as your guide for where you put your adhesive on the designer series paper. You're going to take this one and line that up. Then you're going to open that up. Put adhesive on the back of this one and cover that one up. So this is going to be our little miniature card. So next time you want to create one of these fun folds, you have a little visual of what the fun fold is. The measurements are for the main card, but the little visual will help you know what the fun fold looks like. Now we want to use these little bees to embellish the card. So the first one, or the front panel, I'm going to use the larger one. I'm just going to put some adhesive right in the center of the body. I'm not going to put it on the wings. And then you want to close the card and just make sure that everything stays within the window and also within the die cut and the paper too, because now we don't see it on this side. You have 3 of these bumblebees or bees. I have some mini glue dots already on 2 of them. I just put a couple mini glue dots. I'm going to put this one that's flying in this direction on that one. I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to have these 2, one flying towards the center, and then I'm going to take mini glue dots and put on the back of this one. So normally I bring my project to the mini glue dot, and I'm going to put 2 on the back of this, and then I'm going to place this one right here. So I'm staying within the cutout and the designer series paper. That way when you close the card, you don't see it peeking out. So this is the little miniature, so you have a visual of what the triple panel peekaboo fun fold card is. You can put adhesive on the back of this, and then place this right here. Now you have your instruction postcard with a miniature, and then you have your main card. So how fun is that project? I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to share a couple more samples with you. This one I used the very same cardstock color. I have the Pretty Peacock and the Lost Lagoon, but for these die cuts I used the Forever Forest dies, which are a carryover from the fall and winter mini catalog. This sentiment is from the Thoughtful Moments hybrid folder, and then the paper is from the Winter Meadows Designer Series paper, which is a carryover also from the I think it's September through December mini catalog. So this is another way you can embellish that card and make it a card of many occasions. This card I used some of the Flight and Airy Designer Series paper, which was part of the celebration offering, and I used the boho blue and night of navy for the color, and I just fussy cut these out of the Designer Series paper. and a fun way to utilize that designer series paper. And here's another card sample with the Be Mine designer series paper, and I also used the Thoughtful Moments hybrid folder and cut out some of these embellishments and made a fun card with all of those cute bees. I hope you enjoyed this fun fold. Thank you again for placing an order with me. I very much appreciate it. If you have any questions, please reach out to me, and take care and happy creating.